Good morning, business finance students. I want to talk about break-even analysis. Break-even is that when you want to start a business, you have some expenses. When you sell, let's say, materials or anything, you talked about selling things in, Amazon or something, and you have some revenues. If you buy materials for $100 and your expenses are $100, that means you are breaking even. If you make less than $100, that means you are losing. If you make more than $100, you have a profit. Therefore, break-even analysis, you want to see how much you have, how many items you have to sell. That way you can break even. And your goal is to, as a financial manager, you want to know at what level you break even. And of course, the example I gave is very simple. And it's not always simple because you have a lot of expenses, and you have to find out how much those expenses are and how much your revenues are. And because you have different revenue streams, you have different types of expenses. One type of expense is a fixed cost. Fixed costs, sometimes we don't like fixed costs, and some expenses are variable costs. Let me give you an example what a variable cost in a car dealership is. A variable cost in car dealership is when the salespeople work on commission, which means the car dealership doesn't pay any commission to any car dealer who, let's say, doesn't sell. If the car salesperson doesn't sell any car, that means that the commission he or she gets is zero. If he or she sells one car, let's say, maybe for every car, the dealer gets $100. Therefore, the more cars he or she sells, the more commission he or she gets. The less he pays or she sells or he sells, the less, therefore, money the person gets. The variable costs sometimes do not put pressure on the dealer. You know why? Because if the salesperson doesn't sell anything, the dealership is not, in terms of paying something to the dealer, the dealership is not worried as much. When the dealership is very worried is that if pays a salary to the dealer, because imagine the dealer is getting $5,000 a month and the dealer doesn't sell any cars. In that situation, the owner of dealership gets worried. Why? Because regardless, he or she has to pay, let's say, $5,000 a month. And therefore, that is something as a concept of, variable cost. Another variable cost for a dealership is the car itself, because sometimes these dealerships don't think they buy the cars by their own money. The car comes from just think about the car is given to the dealership by, for example, by GMC, for example. And GMC brings the car and puts it in the dealership. If the dealer sells it, gives money to GMC. If the dealer doesn't sell, therefore, this is an example of variable cost. A variable cost also, what is the fixed cost for a dealer? A dealer has a rent. Therefore, that cost is always there, regardless of if the dealer sells a car or doesn't sell the car, he or she has to pay $10,000. Therefore, that is a fixed cost. Therefore, the dealer has to take into consideration that how many cars a dealer has to sell to break even. To break even means to cover its fixed cost. Imagine if every car sold, the dealer makes $1,000 a car, for example. Every car is sold. So imagine the car is sold for, let's say, 11,300. $10,000 go for the Ford Motor or Chrysler. 300 goes for commission. These are the variable costs. That's 1,300 because the car, that 10,300. Because the car is being sold by 11,300, you deduct 10,300 by 11,000 from 11,000. That means the dealer has made $1,000, and the rent of the dealer is 10,000. Therefore, if I ask you how many cars the dealer has to sell to break even, your answer would be 10, because each car contributes $1,000, gives $1,000 of profit. This profit doesn't go to the pocket of the dealer. This pocket just has to accumulate after he or she, after these commissioners sell 10 cars, each one gives the dealer $1,000 profit. Therefore, that 10 times 1,000 is 10,000. Which means at $10,000, the dealer breaks even. Any car sold beyond $10,000, after they are selling 10 cars, then any car sold extra, then it is in the pocket of the dealer. Therefore, a financial manager always likes to know what his or her break-even point is. In this college, we have a break-even point. How many students we have to have? We collect tuition because that student has to pay the salary of instructors like myself, and for the building, for everything. And up to certain number of students we have, income we have, we break even. Any extra money, will be a profit for the college. Therefore, now I came and gave an example for myself for Amazon. I said, okay, now I want you to think about one of the businesses like here or any business you like. Imagine to calculate a break-even point. Come up, I gave you an example for the car dealership to see how many cars the dealer has to say to break even. And then it is called scenario analysis, and we will say what will happen to the dealer if the dealer sells 5 cars. If the dealer sells 5 cars, that means it makes, $5,000, and the rent is 10,000. That means the car dealership is $5,000 in the whole because it covered $5,000 of the rent. It still needs to sell 5 more. Now, if I ask you how much money the dealer is going to make if it sells 12 cars, your answer is that each car is giving the dealer $1,000. When it sells 10 cars, it breaks even. Because it has sold 12 cars, that means it has a profit of $2,000. In this example, just like last week, you remember you came with some great ideas about the taxes. You said, if I make this much, these are my taxes. This is about your business that you want to know what your break-even analysis is. Therefore, you might come up and say you want to have a car dealership and give some examples of how many cars, but try to make it as real as possible. I just gave you an example of car dealership like this, which is 10,000, but try if you would like come up with real example, because a car dealership might have a rent of $20,000. Its variable cost in terms of selling cars are $40,000, $50,000, and there are 100, 200 cars in the car lot, and if he or she has 5, commissioner, employees who are on commission, these people might not say just flat rate of $300. They might say they want 10% of the sales. In that case, if a car is $40,000, the dealer, the salesperson who, wants 10% of 40,000, which is $4,000. Therefore, try to make the, a case an interesting one by making it more complicated. And I suppose, as I said, I gave you just an example to give you an idea. Then you can come with more, variable expenses and fixed cost expenses for the dealer. Fixed cost expenses is that the dealer always have to have some mechanics. You know that here, suppose in Moorefield, we have a dealership that they fix cars, they have mechanics. Those mechanics might not be on commission, they might be on fixed cost, which means they want $2,000, $3,000 as each, let's say $5,000 of salary. Imagine the dealership has one mechanic who wants $5,000. Therefore, in this case, the fixed cost of the dealership now is not $10,000 of a rent. It is $10,000 plus $5,000 of the money that the dealer has to pay to the mechanic as well. The salespeople are on commission. Therefore, the fixed cost of the dealership is $15,000. Now the dealer has to sell 15 cars to break even instead of 10 cars. Another example is opening a restaurant. Restaurant has fixed cost and a variable cost. Fixed cost, as I said, might be rent. Variable cost might be the number of steaks it sells. The steaks are in freezer. Therefore, anyone, if they sell more steaks, the variable cost goes up. If they sell less steaks, the variable cost goes down. And we don't mind to variable costs go up, because the more this variable cost, more steaks we sell, these steaks help us to cover the cost of the rent, which is a fixed cost. Therefore, we want to see a lot of those variables are being sold. Our hope is not those steaks are not, each single steak is not costing us a lot of more, Our hope is to buy the steaks as cheap as possible for it. Of course, it has to have quality, but that is called variable cost. We want to keep the expenses of variable cost as low as possible as managers. But we want the number of these low variable costs sold to be as many as possible, because that helps us to not only cover our fixed costs, that helps us to sell, to make more money. Therefore, another example is that selling books on Amazon store, that has variable costs. Imagine you want to open a McDonald's franchise. It will cost sometimes $1 million to open a McDonald's franchise, and your expenses might be $100,000. Your total expense, your fixed cost might be $50,000, $30,000. And then if the variable costs, the more Coke you sell, your variable cost goes up. Your hope is to sell as many variable costs as possible to recover. Another example, imagine you have a cab. What are your variable costs? Can you come up with real example? It's a critical thinking project that you are working. And therefore, the more real you can make, the better it is. And after you do that, we do the calculation to see how the variable costs is. And maybe, we will talk about it. Imagine someone might be opening a gun shop. You have variable costs, fixed costs. Here, a lot of people, parents have farm. Farms also have fixed costs and variable costs. So if you own the land, most likely the expense of the land in terms of owning it is called, there is no cost with that in terms of the ownership. However, if you rent a land, then in that case, you have a fixed cost, because every month you have to pay money to the bank, because it has a fixed cost. Therefore, case by case varies. You have to recognize launching, a tax preparation company like H&R Block, or opening a clinic and hiring physicians and nurses. You will have, imagine you are a businessman, you bring, doctors to town, and you have opened a clinic, creating a tech company that sells computers. You might open a major company like Hewlett Packard or Dell. You want to do that, fine. You want to create a nice, a chart or, table to see what your variable costs, and or you may do so. Therefore, these are just to help you to brainstorm. And be sure, you can go to ChatGPT and ask different scenarios. Therefore, you can come up with your own idea and say, hello, ChatGPT, I will tell you what I did. Therefore, you get 10 points for this, for doing it, posting in this discussion board and responding to at least one student, because you will learn from different students about different businesses. You will learn about their fixed costs and try to make it as real as possible. When I say fixed costs, suppose when I come and say, okay, the dealer buys a car for, a new car dealer buys a car for $2,000. Although, this is a not real case, because a new car on average costs $40,000. Therefore, we come up with it. Now, I will show you how you can get 2 extra points. We will, discuss about this. And let me see why this screen came this way. If I click here, hopefully brings it here. Let me see. And let me make this one, adjust this one. See if this screen now is here and doesn't go back to its original, and I don't see the slider here. Therefore, I will stop this video and make you the second video to continue. But for now, this was the first part of my lecture, and I'll send you the second part of the lecture.